Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Morgan's Pop Talks, breaking down the latest in reality TV and pop culture. I'm so excited today because for the first time in 3 weeks, our deep dive is not about the Scandoval. Can we get a round of applause? I mean, of course, we have Scandoval updates, but my gosh, it felt like the story truly that would not end. And although Hindsight is 2020 is not in the pop three, the honorable mention for this episode of MPT is Tom Sandoval and his Hindsight is 2020. Did you guys see the TMZ video? And last week, right after I got done posting the podcast episode, and I was talking about why is this the same guy that's coming up to Ariana and Tom Schwartz? I was like, that's kind of weird. And then he came up to Raquel, and now he's up to Tom Sandoval. I'm wondering if this was like his specific assignment, but Tom Sandoval, we got our first glimpse of him post Scandoval. And you guys, I shouldn't laugh, but the video makes me laugh so hard because this paparazzi has no idea what hindsight is 2020 means. And Tom Sandoval is like struggling to put his cheetah print suitcase in the backseat of his pickup truck. And the guy's like, so do you regret anything, man? And Tom's like, yeah, dude, hindsight is 2020. And the guy's like, yeah, so you're looking forward to the future. And Tom like gives him the death stare multiple times. He's like, no, dude, let me do my best, Sandoval. I don't know if it's going to be any good. No, dude. Hindsight is 2020. And then he slams the car door shut and he's like, so you don't regret anything? He's like, dude, you know what hindsight is 2020 means, right? He's talking with his hands a lot because that's what he does. He's like, it's when you look back on a situation and you're like, oh, of course I could have done better. Of course, dude. It's not funny, but it cracks me up every single time. So here's your reminder, your PSA for the day from Tom Sandoval and TMZ. Hindsight is 2020, baby. Let's jump in to the pop three. While we're speaking of Scandoval, Scheana and Raquel went to court, kinda, but not really. This was over the restraining order against Scheana. It was dismissed because Raquel was a no-show. And Scheana's lawyer snaps for Scheana's lawyer because he's serving it up to Page 6, TMZ, E! News. He's given us the quotes. He says, first of all, Scheana never punched Raquel in the face. His name is Nima Rahmani. He says Scheana didn't punch Raquel. Or actually, he calls her Rachel by her legal name. Scheana didn't punch Rachel. Rachel didn't get a black eye. Scheana pushed Rachel, but only after Rachel grabbed her wrist, and Rachel did not suffer a concussion. He says, this isn't reality TV. This is the real world, and Rachel's actions have real consequences. Rachel filed a false police report, a false medical report, and frivolous petition for a restraining order. So in the court filing, Raquel said that Scheana pushed her against the wall, caused injury, punched her in the face, gave her concussion. Obviously, we know that is not really how the situation went. So, going back and rewatching the season, because I'm making David rewatch it with me, which sidebar, you guys, he goes back to London next week for a long time. So keep me in your T's and P's. Anyways, going back and watching the Havasu trip when all the girls are in Havasu, the discoloration is always under her eye. So I don't know if she's just got permanent bruising or if that's just the way her face looks. I don't know. And in that TMZ thing, she was like, well, I have this scratch on my head. Who knows if that is from Scheana, but it is what it is. Before we move on, and this is the only Scandoval update for the week, I want to just get something out into the universe that's starting to bother me, and that's Lala Kent. Period, end of sentence. She is starting to bother me with this whole situation because I feel like every day I wake up, I check the news outlets, and Lala Kent has said something to get herself on the front page of Page 6. Like today, for example, she went on Jeff Lewis Live, which I get it. Like you do podcasting, you're going to talk about stuff, but she's like, yeah, I dismissed a lot of things. I saw Raquel and Tom under the covers together, and she's saying all this stuff. But in another interview, I saw she said, because they were, I think it was the same interview. She was people are like, well, why didn't you tell Ariana? And she said something along the lines of, I told Scheana because Sheena's closer to Ariana. She says, I could never be close to Ariana because I didn't like Tom Sandoval. So while I, love and respect her, I'm paraphrasing, but the sentiment was, we're friends, but we're not close because I couldn't be close with Tom Sandoval. Then why are you talking about this so much? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It just really is starting to rub me the wrong way, because even like the send it to Daryl stuff, like at first I thought it was funny, but it's like, how much are you going to, quote unquote, profit off of your friend's heartache when you just admit you weren't even that close to her because of Tom Sandoval? And I get it. She's going to be there to rally for Ariana, as she should. But should she be constantly talking? She's like the spokesperson for Scandoval right now between her and Scheana. But the difference with Scheana is saying things that happened to her when it comes to the situation, right? Because she was actually really friends with Raquel. So anyways, that's my rant about Lala. Let's move on to headline number 2 in this week's Pop 3, the Kardashians trailer for season 3. We got a 45-second trailer. I think it is a nothing burger. We're going to discuss if we think the Kardashians are in their flop in their flop era. But first, some interesting tidbits. And I really have no idea if they mean anything, but I do think they were intentional, is that each character in the show has one line in the trailer, except for Kim, who has 2, and Chris has none. So I'm going to kind of go through the trailer start to finish, tell you what they say, and then kind of give you my thoughts about it. So it starts by Kim saying, listen, everyone has their own truth of how they think something happened, which I agree with her. But obviously people are like, the big question is, are they going to talk about the Balenciaga scandal? Because, they didn't talk about Astroworld, which I think the two situations are different, if I'm being completely honest with you. But I do think that Kim specifically got so much backlash for the Balenciaga stuff. And that's when they started to go radio silent, right? So I think she might be referring to that. Might be. I don't know. Maybe it's Kanye stuff. Maybe it's Pete Davidson stuff. I don't know. Chloe says, I want to tell you that this is going to be a mild, relaxing season. It's not. And let me tell you, if Chloe tells us in season 3 that she's back with Tristan, like I'm already 90% out on the show. I will be 100% out. Like it is so, there's all these Dumois blinds that they've been together for a while. Tristan just bought a house 3 doors down from Chloe. So it's like, I don't know. If they were together, would he be buying his own house or would he just be moving in? I don't know, whatever. So then Courtney says, there's no sense of loyalty. And it's like, she's talking about Scott, right? Because the very next clip is Scott Disick, a Scott sighting, the Lord Disick sighting, which people are excited that Scott is back because he's honestly one of the best parts about the show. He's at least funny. And if it's another Courtney yelling at her family because they want to invite Scott to things, I'm like, haven't we been down this road for the past, I don't know, 5 years? Kendall says, it all comes back to protecting my peace. That's all you do, Kendall, is protect your peace. So much so that you give us nothing. And then Kylie says, we have huge influence. What are we doing with our power? And then Kim says, let's talk about it, alluding to the Balenciaga scandal, in my opinion. Will they talk about it? I don't know. For the first time ever in the trailer, they don't remind us that they're a family. They must have seen all my posts about it last season, because it was like every season of the Kardashians ever, they're like, but we're a family and you can't bring us down because we're a family. And even if you cheat on us, we're a family. I'm like, you guys, we know that you're a family. You don't have to remind us in every single trailer. And so it was a running joke on the page. Every time that they would come out with a new trailer, I'd be like, oh, Kim reminded us this time that they're a family. Chloe reminded us this time that they're a family. Chris reminded us this time. And they didn't do it. So you guys are welcome, potentially. I just have to say, when you compare the Vanderpump Rules trailer to the Kardashians trailer, child's play. Like, save it for Disney Plus with the kids watching PJ Masks after school. Are the Kardashians losing their clout? I think they are, honestly, for a lot of different reasons. I think, like everything that I've just said, people are tired of the same. There's so many great shows out there, like, you know, the season of Vanderpump Rules, Love is Blind, which we're going to talk about. There's so much good content out there that people don't want to watch these rich women in their houses. You know, the fact that we had to watch 4 episodes dedicated to Kim Kardashian going to the Met Gala last year was like, ugh. I got to be honest, I didn't watch after like the 4th episode. So we'll see what happens. Okay. Third and final headline in the pop 3, Mike Fleiss is leaving the Bachelor franchise. Spoiler alert, if you haven't watched the ending yet, people were so mad at me. So mad at me on Instagram because I posted a video about a theory that I had, and it had a picture of Zach proposing to Katie. Look, it wasn't at 8:00 on Monday night. It was at 4:00 the next day. And if you're listening to me, and I get it, I'm a next day watcher. I have to wake up at 5 a.m. for my real job. So I'm not staying up till 11 o'clock to watch The Bachelor, which, by the way, charity season is going to start at 9 p.m. every week. So chew on that. I get it, but also, like, if I'm trying to avoid spoilers, I'm not going on the internet. It's not my responsibility to know your schedule, okay? So I'm just doing my job. Don't be mad at me. I still love you. Anyhow, Mike Fleiss, the creator of the Bachelor franchise, announced he's leaving after 21 years on the show. He says, I want to thank WBTV and ABC for 21 extraordinary years. They found the perfect creative team for me to entrust the Bachelor franchise and keep this lightning in a bottle bold and moving forward. Let the journey continue. I talked about this on my page, but the decision from Mike Fleiss to leave the Bachelor franchise did not happen overnight. It's actually been a long time in the works. And you know, I'm of the opinion that Mike Fleiss, for maybe when I say seasons, I mean both Bachelor and Bachelorette seasons in 1 year. So I'm thinking maybe 2 years was looking for when his exit was going to be. And I really think that is why we've seen a lot of the casting choices that we have seen. Mike Fleiss, the creator, after 21 years, could not go out on a bad note. He couldn't go out on a season like Pilot Pete's. He couldn't go out on a season like Matt James, because at that point, it's like, what is the final chapter in your legacy, right? This is why I am very convinced and have some intel that they really wanted Michael A. to be the Bachelor. Because they wanted, and I think that season, Clayton's season, was going to be Mike's last season. But obviously, it blew up in flames. But everybody was rooting for Michael. You know, he has such a sad story. You're just rooting for him to find love. It would be the perfect way to end his tenure, Mike Fleiss. And even Clayton, I believe that in their talks behind the scenes, because they interview tons of candidates, and the conversation had to have been with these guys. Look, I got to go out on high. I need a clean and classic season. No controversies. I need an engagement. Obviously, Clayton really messed that one up. But how confused were we all when Clayton was chosen to be the Bachelor? We were like, what? Now, I will say, going into the season, I believe that Clayton was all in. He was like, yes, I will get engaged. I want to do it right. Obviously, he made choices that made that impossible for him, but I do believe that he sold it to the producers that he would be their final season. So then you have Zach, and we're like, same thing, right? Why Zach? Out of, you had Rodney, had a great season on the beach. You had a lot of different options. People are like, Zach, same thing. I think in those behind the scenes conversations, Zach is like, yes, I am going to take this seriously. I want to find my wife. I want to be married. I want to get engaged at the end of this. I want to give you your fairy book ending, And I think this is also why we saw a lot of Sean Lowe. They wanted us to be reminded that the show works, that there are good guys out there that are going to do it right, that are going to get married and they're going to get engaged and they're not going to have any huge scandals, which of course we had a scandal early in the season with Greer. But other than that, not a whole lot. So don't think that this hasn't been a long time in the making. It has. So who's taking his place? According to Deadline, Claire Freeland, Jason Elric, and longtime executive producer Bennett Graebner are taking over. So all of them have a lot of experience. Freeland was a showrunner of The Bachelor in Canada. Elric had been a showrunner on The Bachelor, The Bachelorette, Bachelor Pad in the United States. And then Graebner had been a long time executive producer on the franchise. So they're all more, than capable of carrying on the flag, if you will. We're going to recap the whole episode, the whole finale on the Bachelor Brain Dump on the Patreon on Friday. The link is in the description below if you want to subscribe. I will say some interesting tea that came out of the Bachelor finale was that Zach said they aired his final dates out of order. A lot of people were mad at Zach because Gabby had this gut feeling that it wasn't going to be her, right? And you see her crying on the beach and she's like, why can't you just make up your mind? And Zach's like, I haven't. It's such a hard decision. I don't know. And then we get to the end and he tells Katie, it's always been you. I knew it was you. Like there was no doubt in my mind. And people were like, what? Did you just straight up lie to Gabby? Well, Zach and Katie did an interview with Sarah Heron from Us Weekly, and he said that Gabby's date was actually first. And so when he had that date with Gabby, he was still confused. He didn't know what he was going to do. But then the second date, the final date before the last rose ceremony, his date with Katie solidified his feelings. And when he saw her, he was like, that's my wife. I know what I have to do. So you can't always believe what you see on TV, folks. And that brings us to the deep dive. Every week on my Instagram at Morgan P Talks, I open the deep dive for your submissions. What do you want to know more about? Love is Blind is back, baby. So we're going to dive deep. This week, it's from Becca.
Hey Morgan, this is Becca in McKinney, Texas. I would love a deep dive about the new season of Love is Blind. Do you think Irina and Micah were mean girls? Do you have any tea? Love you like a sis.
Becca, love you like a sis. And yes, I have tea. I have some answers to some misconceptions. I have some pieces of the puzzle that we're going to be putting together. Maybe like Zach's finales, some editing tricks that they have done this season. So season 4, Love is Blind, the entire cast is coming to us from Seattle, Washington. And if you haven't watched all 5 episodes yet, this probably isn't the podcast episode for you. Watch the episodes and come back. But I'm just going to go through the people who are left, and we'll talk about some stuff that happened in the pods with the couples that are, there as of episode 5. So first you have Brett and Tiffany, currently America's favorite couple, even more so than Zach and Katie. I really love them both equally. I'm like praying that they don't throw us a curveball. Brett, very vulnerable about his upbringing, talking about how he didn't want to invite friends over because they didn't have electricity, how he worked his way to his dream job at Nike. I really love Brett, and I believe he's in his mid to upper 30s, and so is Tiffany, which a lot of people are making this point where they're like, why don't they cast people in their 30s who actually are ready to be serious about getting married? Because Tiffany also gorgeous, strong, independent, but ready to find her life partner. Now, she did fall asleep in the pods, and to me, that was a Raven jumping jacks moment, but I was listening because Natalie and Deep D just came out with a new podcast called Out of the Pods. And they said that sometimes these late night dates start at midnight. Okay. So first of all, you're completely exhausted. You're talking for hours. You add alcohol into the mix and it's just a recipe for disaster. So we give her grace for falling asleep. Speaking of the drinks, here's some tea on the cups that they use for Love is Blind. This is a really interesting tidbit. So, they have those gold goblets that they carry everywhere, right? And you're like, why can't they just drink out of a normal glass? Well, the reason why they always use those glasses is for continuity. I call them continuity cups because if you have a glass that you can see through and you're piecing, if you're editing things together that aren't necessarily in that chronological timeline, viewers are going to be able to see, oh, the glass is full here, but the next second it's completely empty. And while they're in the pods, it might not be that big of a deal. But when I was watching After the Altar for season 3, and they were, back in their hometowns, and they were out to eat in these public places and they still had their gold cups. I'm like, look, I know that they don't have the gold cups in the back of Olive Garden. Like, what are you guys doing here? So that's why they use those cups so that it doesn't give away any of their editing tricks. So our next couple, Kwame and Chelsea. Now, I know that Chelsea is a little odd, but I love her. You know what I mean? Like, I like her. I like her energy. I want to be friends with her. I feel like she is a girl's girl. I feel like she knows herself. And I said episode 1. I was not convinced about Kwame. I think he's a smooth talker. I think he knows what to say to women to get certain reactions out of them. I feel like he tailors his language to whoever he's speaking to at that moment. It's always like really deep and intimate phrases, right? Like, you're speaking straight to my soul and I'm so attracted to your mind and all of these really deep things. But he would say it to Chelsea in one moment and then he would say it to Micah in another moment. And I'm like, I don't know about this. And I think he's doing Chelsea dirty. Obviously, like I said, his 2 choices were Micah and Chelsea. Micah turned him down. And so he went with Chelsea and they still might have a connection. But the conversation in the pool with Micah and Kwame was like so disrespectful to Chelsea. Paul didn't care at all. And I'll get to that in a second. But their body language towards each other, they were like really leaning into each other and grabbing each other's hands and talking very closely. And he totally downplayed the conversation to Chelsea and, in my opinion, gave half truths and not the full story. And I love that Chelsea stood up for herself. And she was like, point blank, period. It should not happen. It will never happen again. Capiche? And he's like, okay. I like the way that she confronts Kwame and not Micah, because a lot of women, their default is to blame the other woman. And it's normal to get, if I was in that situation, I was Chelsea, I would be like pissed at both of them and be like, what the heck? But I would also be like, what, Micah, what are you doing? Like, why are you trying to steal my man? I guess I shouldn't speak for all of us, but sometimes people just have a tendency of getting more angry with the woman than the man who's also contributing to this situation. But she's like, I also like the way that she talked to Micah about it. Obviously we didn't get the full conversation because the thunderstorm happened, but I thought she was very respectful while still letting her feelings be known. I'm giving Kwame one more chance before I put him into Bartise category, the Bartise bin. He's there alone right now, but Kwame might be in that bin pretty soon if he doesn't straighten up. Okay. Paul and Micah don't like each other. You guys, there's no chemistry there whatsoever. And here's the tea on Paul and Micah. Like I told you, I listened to Natalie and Deep D's podcast, which I liked. They only had 2 episodes and they're just recapping, the episodes, but they do give behind the scenes tea. At first, the first 5 minutes, I'll be completely honest with you because I'm not going to tell you to listen to something that's horrible, but I'm listening to it and, I'm very animated. I'm loud. Like I borderline have to turn my microphone all the way down because I shout like the majority of my podcast. But like Natalie and Titi, they both have very calming voices. And I was like, am I going to be put to sleep like Tiffany in the pods? But I actually found it very relaxing, but easy to listen to and interesting to listen to because they do have the perspective of actually being there before. So sources from production told Natalie, and she said this on the podcast, and this potentially could be a mini spoiler. If you don't really want to know what's going on between Paul and Micah, skip forward like a minute. But if you do want to know, so there's your spoiler warning. Natalie said that according to her sources, they're not genuine in their relationship. They know it's not going to work, but that they want TV time. Maybe that's why Paula's MIA during that pool conversation between Micah and Kwame. He doesn't really care what's going on. Maybe that's why he's entertaining the idea of stealing Irina, from Zach. Natalie's prediction was that in the upcoming episodes, they're going to try to portray themselves as a strong couple, but stay in a friendship to stay on for screen time and then say no at the altar. So we'll have to see. But it makes sense. And I mean, Micah really entertains the conversation with Kwame. So I can't say that I think Natalie's prediction is too far off. Not last but not least, we still have two couples. Oh, Lord have mercy. Irina and Zach. She hates him. He really tried. I understand how people could get weird vibes from Zach, but I hate how mean they all are to him. They are so mean to him, except for Paul. Paul's his dude. And like, you can not vibe with someone. You can think they might be a little weird, but like, you don't have to ridicule him like we're in 7th grade. You don't have to say on national television that he gives you the ick. Like, that is so mean. A lot of the convos about the mean girls, Michael and Irina, which we'll get into, but can we just make this public service announcement a rule of thumb for anyone who goes on Love is Blind? Don't sing ever. If you're Mariah Carey, don't sing in the pods. Just don't do it. I was aching, breaking down. The bluest sky the blues had found. I've watched the clip so many times. I know how it goes. You found me all alone. I found myself a Blarney Stone. I don't know what a Blarney Stone is. I need to up my stone game. But people were ripping on Zach too. They're like, bro, you did not write that song, because in the pod he said, I wrote you a little song. It was actually a real life song, which kind of makes me sad for the people that actually wrote it because it's being ripped to shreds. But Zach said on the band's Instagram account, he said, I actually explained that this was not an original song and that I changed the lyrics to one of my favorite love songs. That was cut along with the rest of the song, but a small portion. So I think, what he's saying here is that, yes, this is a song. I changed some of the words later on, but they cut that part out. And so it's a little bit misconstrued. So anyways, okay, Bliss, the prediction. I think she's going to give him another chance. Not because it's going to work, but I think she wants to be on Love is Blind. Look, you're not going to go through the entire casting process, go through the pods, be second choice, be upset about it, see that there potentially could be future with somebody. Have it not work out, and then a week later have the guy come back and be like, I messed up. Can we please do it? Like, I'm not going to knock you, Bliss. If you want your 15 minutes, at this point, you earned it. You deserved it. And because you were the second choice, I think you should take advantage of it, sister. And if you find love in the end, wonderful. If not, you'll gain some followers. I'm here for it. I want to see more of Bliss. Okay. Now last, but certainly not least, Marshall and Jacquelina. If you didn't know, Marshall is cousins with Bachelor Nation star Justin Glaze, by the way. I'm really undecided about these two. They feel very yin and yang to me. She says whatever is on her mind and doesn't really think twice about it, where I think he is more reserved and really thinks things through. I didn't love the way Jacquelina spoke about the other women. Like, I can't tell where her loyalties lie. Like, in one breath, she calls Irina and Micah frickin' frack. And then she says to Micah, like, talking about Chelsea, like, I don't think Micah wants your man. Like, she just kind of pops off a little bit at the mouth, and I'm just confused about her energy. It seems a bit unpredictable to me. A lot of people confused about what her emotional breakdown was about because the show gave literally no context whatsoever at what she was crying about. But she revealed on her Instagram that she really has some heavy stuff going on back home. Her father at the time was battling cancer. She said, "My father at the time was fighting stage 2 head and neck cancer, had a feeding tube in his stomach, had the back of his tongue removed, and had 11 cancerous lymph nodes removed from his neck a few months before I filmed the show. I felt guilty being happy and enjoying my time in Mexico because my family deserves time away." She says, "My mental breakdown in Mexico was all the emotions of being head of the house, having my family depending on me, and having the weight of my emotions and feelings all colliding at once." She also shared that her brother recently was released from prison, and she looks after him as well. So I feel for her. Her family situation is very tough. She seems like the provider of the family. That's got to come with a lot of responsibility, a lot of pressure. And, like when you're on a reality dating show in Mexico, you could be thinking to yourself, what am I doing here? And maybe it's just all boiled up. Obviously, it's an emotional pressure cooker, regardless of situations that are going on back home. So, Marshall said to her, "We talked about this. I got you. You're not going back alone." So while I'm not entirely convinced that these two will last, I think Marshall is the type of guy who will stick by her side through hard times. So I'm glad that she was getting the comfort from him that she needed in that moment. Okay. Irina and Micah are being dubbed the mean girls, the new villains on the block. Fans are really not enjoying these two, especially together. There's really a list of things that they did to rub people the wrong way. In the beginning, laughing at Amber when she was crying over Paul, like listening through the wall. Jacqueline had a moment in the pods where she was crying over a situation, and Micah and Irina were like smirking and laughing. Now, before the premiere in March, Micah said, quote, "What Irina did for me was make me laugh and reminded me who I am and that I like to laugh. I like to joke. Like, this is a really serious situation, but I don't have to be miserable. Like, I can enjoy myself a little bit." And she gave me that. And for that, I don't regret it. Okay. But that was before the premiere. Obviously, there's lots of backlash coming in. So she backtracks on that in a little bit. But at March 25th, so a couple days after the episodes dropped, she said on her Instagram story, this is Micah, "Despite all the lovely wishes, I am indeed still alive," with heart emojis. So it's kind of vague, but I can imagine she's talking about internet backlash. Irina has said, "With Micah, we were laughing because, yes, it was very serious and it was very intense and it was very hard. So I don't want to brush it off and say that we weren't taking it seriously. It's just more our perspective. That's how we coped about it. We laughed and made the best out of it. We didn't intend to be mean or intentionally hurt anybody at all. That does honestly hurt me hearing that. And I hope I can have some conversation to fix that later." So at first, they kind of have this nonchalant attitude about the backlash, but it's continuing to grow. So even this week, Micah posted this Instagram apology on her story. She says, "A small note. I have apologized to the people that were hurt on the show by my hands. I would like to apologize publicly. An emotional immaturity has shown, and I will grow from it. I'm sorry I've triggered so many of you with my behavior. Seeing that person on the screen would make me feel the same anger." She says, after turning off comments, she did turn off the comments on her social media. And then she says, "I'm doing my best to protect my mental health, deserved or not. It has always been something I've struggled with, and I know I cannot better myself if I'm more unwell mentally. I hope you understand that I'm taking accountability privately. I promise to do better in the future." Okay, so my thoughts on the dubbed mean girls. If you're going on a reality television show, you have to have some type of self-awareness to be on TV. Every little thing you do is being filmed. And either these two have no self-awareness of how their actions come across. They either don't have any self-awareness or they knew what they were doing all along and they were leaning into it. You know what I mean? Like, there's no gray area there, I don't think. I don't really think like a notes app apology is necessary after 5 episodes, but I think maybe Micah knows it's only going to get worse. Maybe she's trying to get out in front of it. Maybe an unpopular opinion, but I think Irina's meaner than Micah. They just don't really bring out the best in each other. Can we all agree on that? We can agree on that. I mean, we're so early into the season. I have to say, I really am enjoying the season more so than seasons in the past. I feel like they finally have gotten the edit down to a good pace. I remember watching seasons, 1 through 3, sometimes thinking that, oh, this is kind of slow and like there's not a lot of payoff when you get invested in these relationships and then they don't go past the pause. But I'm really loving season 4 so far. So there you have it. Final thoughts this week. We're going to talk about the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills because they are currently filming season 13. We haven't heard a lot, but it's in full swing and we've been seeing some familiar faces pop up, which makes me excited. So fresh off the heels of the decision to let go controversial housewife Lisa Rinna, here is who has been spotted filming for the upcoming season of Beverly Hills. Denise Richards, Camille Grammer, Kim Richards, and Cynthia Bailey. I mean, heavy hitters pulling out all the stops. So Denise, Camille, and Cynthia all were at a dinner party that Kyle threw. Camille posted some BTS from the party, like of somebody making a cocktail and there was a camera in the background. And then fans noted Denise's name card at the dinner setting. And, she's dropping hints on Instagram that she's coming back. Cynthia and all of these people I don't think are coming back as full-time cast members. I think they're just making little cameos, including Cynthia, because she came to the same dinner party as a guest of Sutton, which I'm not surprised by. Some people might think, oh, that's kind of odd, but I don't know if they met at BravoCon, but I saw them together at BravoCon. I actually got a picture of me, Cynthia, and Sutton at BravoCon. So I think they did spend some time together there. And a source told ET, although cameras were rolling, Cynthia's not an official cast member, but she often is invited to events by the cast. And she decided to go to the dinner. She might be popping in and out as a guest this upcoming season. Nothing is official. And right now it's casual. Cynthia's focused on her acting career, which is what she said at BravoCon, because she moved from Atlanta to California last year. And she said at BravoCon that even though she could potentially be in the mix of Beverly Hills, she wanted to focus on her acting career, after coming off of her divorce from Mike Hill. So not only were those three spotted, Kim Richards, who has not been on Beverly Hills since 2015, was spotted filming a scene with Dorit and Kyle walking around outside. I mean, Kim is always very animated. So to me, it looked like an intense conversation, but I just think that Kim in general has an intense presence. It seems like Kim and Kyle were on good terms from the pictures that we saw. They were hugging and, just walking with Dorit. Kathy and Kyle, I don't know what the status is on Kathy Hilton's involvement in the upcoming season. There hasn't been an official word, but the last thing that I saw Kyle say about her relationship with Kathy was in February, and that was that they hadn't seen each other in a while and that things still hadn't really been resolved since the reunion. So a lot of people are speculating online, why are they bringing all these people back? Is season 13 flopping or editors scrambling? I'm not going to jump to any conclusions. I enjoy seeing Camille Grammer and Denise Richards and Kim Richards and Cynthia Bailey. So I'm going to reserve my judgments for when the show actually comes out. There was a rumor on All About the Tea that Lisa Rinna is going to try to start her own reality show and become the new Kris Jenner. That rumor has been around for quite some time. This isn't the first time that I've ever heard it. I feel like I heard it, I want to say 2 years ago, where, the essence of it would be very Kardashian-esque. You have Harry and Lisa, and then you have their model singer daughters. I think Delilah put out a song recently and following them around. I don't know it. I don't care what Lisa Rinna does. And we'll end on that. Thanks again. If you haven't left a review on the show, please feel free to do so. A little 5-star. It helps tremendously in pushing the podcast to explore pages. So if you haven't and you're a fan of the show, please do so. Share it with a friend. If you missed Extra Pop this week, we talked all about the bombshell couple news that came out of the weekend with Rhoda and Harry Styles, Selena and Zayn, Tayshia Adams and Luke Branson. Yeah. You're going to want to hear that. So that's on the Patreon. Extra Pop, like I said, the Bachelor Brain Dump will be on Friday. The link to sign up to subscribe is in the description below. I'll see you next week. Bring a box of tissues because it'll be David's last Wednesday before he goes back to London. Okay, we're not going to think about it. Love you like a sis. See you later.